Adelaide Capital.
Thanks for joining us for our October digital newsletter. I'm Deborah Honig. With me, I have Tina Byers and Victoria Rutherford. Hey, guys.
Hello, how's it going?
Good. So nice to be back after the summer. It was a little bit of a slow summer, but looks like we're setting up some new virtual events coming up. We've been working on putting together an ag tech conference. So if you have any suggestions of companies, feel free to reach out. Tina, what's been going on with you?
Things have been busy. September was a bit of a weaker month in general for the markets. I think there's some tax loss selling and some funds had their year ends in September. So a little bit of a bearish sentiment lately, but a lot of exciting things going on with our clients. We added E79 Resources and TeloGenomics as well. We'll be doing a webinar with TELO on the 13th at 2 p.m. So watch out for that one. And I'm looking forward to getting some of the updates with clients and new clients as well.
Great. And Vic, I think you've got some new clients over the summer.
Yeah, well, over the summer, we added BIGG. So I'm definitely excited to get their update today. They had some exciting news last week. It's also been nice in September to see, conference season has kicked off again. Some of them have been in person. People have been getting out a little bit more, which is definitely nice to see. And then I'm going to also be hosting a webinar later this month with Evergen Infrastructure. So it's on the 21st at 2 p.m. This one's really interesting. It's renewable natural gas, high growth, stable, sticky revenues, long-term contracts. So definitely watch for that one coming up as well.
Great. And let's see, who do we have up first today? Let's start with BIGG. I see Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, good morning. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
So you guys hit a pretty big milestone last week. I won't steal your thunder, but why don't you share the good news?
Yeah, thanks. So we got our regulation, our restricted dealer license for Netcoins from the CSA. So that's nationally. All the provinces and territories in Canada now signed on to make Netcoins a legal crypto trading platform. It's a first in Canada for a public company. And we're really excited about it, but all of the things that it enables is what's really exciting for us. First of all, it gives Netcoins a huge amount of credibility in the eye of the investor, both retail and institutional, if they're going to trust a trading platform for their hard-earned dollars to buy Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, Ripple, you name it. Netcoins is a great place to go now. Not only are we owned by a public company, which is of course audited and transparent, we have the license on top of it. So we have proper KYC and insurance and onboarding and reporting with the government regulators. So that's a big step forward for us. And what it enables is a whole whack of things. First of all, partnerships. We are looking at a number of fintech companies across Canada with huge reach and huge customer bases that'll now do business with us because we're regulated. We can act as market participants with them. We can enable trading through their platforms. We can partner with credit card organizations, you name it. So it's going to really enable Netcoins to not only directly serve customers, but act as a bit of a platform for fintech companies across Canada who want to get into the crypto trading business or the crypto business in general, but don't want to hold their own license. So because we have a license and we can operate in the background, they can enter the market now really easily and quickly by partnering with us. It also opens up ad channels. So there's been a lot of different media, television stations, internet, even Google that wouldn't let us advertise without a license. And now that we have one, we'll be, again, one of the only platforms in Canada that can access these advertising channels to get out, attract consumers, attract new investors in the platform, which of course directly correlates into revenue. So we're expecting a really nice revenue growth curve on the backside of this license now. And finally, there's a shrinking market. Particularly the OSC in Ontario, but the CSA in general is pushing all of the platforms to regulation, and we've been leading the charge in that. And now they're going to start removing competitors from the marketplace that aren't going through regulation. They've already told Binance to leave Ontario, BitMEX the same thing, OKX the same thing. There's been enforcement actions against other platforms like Poloniex. And basically the market of competitors is shrinking. We're only going to see probably a handful of these licenses ultimately be handed out. And on the bottom end of the market, the smaller players aren't going to make it through. They don't have the bankroll to hire the lawyers, go through the regulatory approvals, and get a license. So they'll either exit the market or sell their platforms, on a cheap side basis to the companies that are regulated. So you'll see a consolidation. And then finally, the market continues to grow. More and more people are entering the crypto market every day. We just crossed 50,000 US again this morning, which is exciting to see for the price of Bitcoin. So the market grows, the competitive set shrinks, and Netcoins is leading the way with a new regulatory license. So that's really the big update from our side.
It's funny because everyone was waiting for this license, almost like, okay, they're going to get the license, and almost like it was an ending, but really it sounds like it's just the beginning of what you guys are going to be doing in the next 6 to 12 months are going to be pretty interesting for the company. Yeah,
it's going to kick off a lot of potential catalysts. So yeah, it's the start. We had to get here. I mean, the platform's been doing great and growing, but we had to get the license in place to enable the whole next phase of the company and phase of growth. And we're excited to finally cross that threshold, I guess you'd say.
And then you have a busy week coming up. You're attending 2 conferences this week.
Yeah, we got the Lithium Capital Partners Conference on Thursday. So there's going to be a presentation, and there's a whole bunch of one-on-one institutional investor meetings that I'm going to be having, which are going to bring a lot of new eyeballs. Large potential investors to BIGG. And then on Friday, we have a non-deal roadshow with HC Wainwright. Same thing again, a day long from 7 in the morning till the evening of one-on-one meetings between myself and their institutional investor clients. So between now and the end of the week, we're going to have a lot of new eyeballs on the story as well.
Okay, that's great. No, thanks for the update, and you're busy, so we'll leave it there.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks for having me today.
So up next, we have an update with Joe Hamilton, CEO of Unigold, and he's going to give us an update on what's going on in the DR. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Deborah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I think that you're about to mobilize and start drilling at Candelones again. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've got a number of pushes on, I suppose, in what we're doing in the Dominican Republic. The first one, of course, is the oxide project, which in our mind is the one that's going to create value for shareholders the fastest. So on that front, we've started the environmental impact assessment on that project. We have expect by the end of October we'll be able to award contracts for completing the definitive feasibility study on that project. And all of those things should take between, I would expect, about 6 months to 8 months. So by the end of the second quarter next year, I think we'll have some clarity on the oxide project and hopefully permits in hand for that as well. The sulfides, which of course everyone would recall is the bigger project. It's 2.2 million ounces. We'll start doing some drilling on that east and west and a little bit to depth. We've still got some more work to do on that to understand how it comes in and fits together with the oxide project. The sulfides probably won't be in production for 5 years. That's more or less the same time as the oxides tail off. So we've got plenty of time to decide how those oxides are going to be developed and processed. So we've got some more work to do there. And then, of course, the last push we've got going on is the regional exploration, which we've been really doing since June of this year, getting out in the field mapping, doing grab samples and looking at some of those other 20 targets that we've got in the area.
And I think some of the regional targets that you're hitting are more copper concentrated.
Yeah, that's correct. There's a 10-kilometer long copper anomaly, which has had almost no attention in the last 20 years. I think the last time Mitsubishi Metals was in there in the 80s. But it's a fairly extensive copper and soil anomaly. We've done quite a bit of trenching, grab sampling. We found chalcocite veins in outcrop. We're waiting for assays to come back from that. But it certainly looks like there are good copper systems there as well, right at the interface between the upper and the lower Terreo along the thrust fault. So we've spent some time looking at that trend. We've also looked at some gold areas, principally around kilometer 6, which is about 2 kilometers north of Candelones. And recently we've been doing trenching around the MGN area, which is east of Candelones, and that's principally to see if we can find more oxide to add to the oxide project.
Okay, so in terms of news flow, you can expect some trenching results, some drill results maybe in a couple months, and some updates as you progress towards permitting?
Yeah, that's correct. It'll be, I think what we'll see in the news flow are results from our trenching and grab sampling, followed by an award of a feasibility contract. We will keep moving forward with the social permitting as well as the environmental permitting, and we'll report on that throughout the year. And then once we get drilling again, hopefully we'll start getting some drill results from that some of that wildcat exploration, which can really add value quickly.
Got it. And I know we always talk about this, but valuation currently, where are you sitting on an EV to ounce basis?
I think we're
$9?
yeah, probably around $5 an ounce to $8 an ounce at this point US. We've got about a $20 million Canadian market cap at this point, which is about 15 or 16 US, with 2.2 million ounces. So somewhere around $7 an ounce US in the ground, which I think is certainly at the low end of the curve. But I think as we move the oxide project through the permitting phase and start to show there's true value there, and that permits can easily be gotten in the Dominican Republic, I think we'll start to see more value and come up closer to our peer valuations.
I agree with you. I think that's been one of the biggest pushbacks of the story is the rhetoric around, is it possible to permit in the DR? And I think once you start hitting those milestones, the market will re-rate you.
Yeah, and it's more about keeping the lines of communication open and understanding what the communities want and what the Ministry of the Environment wants to see from us. And this is a great time to be doing that because we're doing the environmental impact assessment in conjunction with the detailed engineering. So we can design in certain things into the project in order to help with the permitting.
Great. Well, I appreciate the update, Joe. I know you've got somewhere to jump off to, so I'll catch up with you later.
Thank you very much, Deborah. And thanks for this opportunity. And if anyone needs any other information, of course, it's available on our website, and you can contact me through the website as well. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
And I think up next, do we have Bonterra, Vic?
Hey, Pascal. Well, you've had some in-person interaction. You were back at Beaver Creek and Denver this month. Was it nice to get off Zoom?
Yeah. Which was good. But no, we had great meetings over there for the last, for those two conferences. Met a lot of people. Of course, some were in person, some virtually, but good meetings. And but more than that, we're continuing our drilling. We just released some drill results this morning at the battery deposit. We got some fantastic results just outside the resource estimate from June, so it's not included in those resource, but just outside, like a few hundred meters outside the pit shell, and that drill hole that 8 grams over 12 meters is right on surface. So there's a little bit of overburden, and then right at the bedrock, I saw the core. It starts right at the start of the drill core, so it's right on surface, and we're continuing to drill in that area. We have one drill rig right there drilling around that drill results we released this morning. And we have 3 other drills in the camp, in the urban berry camp. Of course, 2 at Gladiator on barges. That's because of the weather. Winter's coming here. And, like probably in about 3 weeks, we're going to be done on the barge drilling. So we're going to move drilling the drill rigs on land. We're going to continue to focus on Gladiator with those 2 rigs. But and the 3rd rig is currently doing regional drilling. If you look at the Barry Gladiator area, we're drilling the northwest trend of the camp. So there's the formation structure on the north end of our property, and we're testing that right now. So our neighbors are finding outside their existing deposits. So of course, we're doing the same. So we're locating probably about 30% of our meters outside our existing deposit. And we drill currently about 6,000 meters per month.
Wow. So you guys have definitely still been busy.
Yeah.
And then you guys launched that financing last week. Do you want to just give everyone an update on that and on balance sheet and everything now?
Yeah. This it was a flow through for the Canadian investors. So it's a tax. It's an incentive for the investors to invest in exploration. So we issued $10 million. We announced financing of $10 million at $1.47. So we expect it to close it before the end of October. So things are moving along pretty good for us. We get good support from our investors, and we're continuing the drilling in the camp.
Great, that's great. So we're gonna thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Be
Thanks.
safe.
You too.
So next up, we have Rory Quinn. He's the president and CEO of E79 Resources, which is listed on the CSE with the ticker ESNR. Also OTC listed with the ticker ESVNF. Rory, thanks for joining us. I know we did a webinar recently, but why don't you give us a quick overview of the story?
Great, thanks for having me again, Tina. Yeah, because we're new to Adelaide, I'll give a little bit of a background on E79. We're operating in the Victoria Goldfields, where a couple of Canadian companies, notably Kirkland Lake with Fosterville, but also Mandalay with Costerfield are operating. The opportunity there is developed at depth. And likewise with E79, the opportunity is at depth with two of our properties. Our first property at Myrtleford, which has been in the news quite a bit, we put out news last week, and we discussed it on our call. We've had, there's 70 past producing gold mines on the property. Virtually all exploration and mining stopped at the water table. There was roughly 5 million ounces of gold produced there historically. We tied up about 70% of that area. We've in early drilling, we've completed 7 deep drill holes, of which 5 were in visible gold. So very successful beginning, just the beginning really to our drill campaign there. And on hole 3, significantly, we were in 11.5 meters of 160 grams per ton gold. So sort of over 5 ounces per ton, spectacular grade. And I would suggest one of the best drill holes drilled for gold anywhere in the world this year, in 2021. We have a secondary property called Beaufort. That is, that again, the opportunity is at depth there. We're searching for a hard rock source to over 1 million ounces of alluvial gold production. What's significant about that is that virtually all of the big gold mines, gold deposits in Victoria, and I mean, for context, Victoria is 80 million ounces of gold historically produced there, so really prolific. Virtually all of those gold deposits were sourced back from alluvial gold that was found at surface, right? So that's the significance there. That property is only seeing really only very shallow exploration and drilling in the context of less than $300 an ounce gold that was done. So they weren't looking at depth. Fosterville type mineralization was never considered in the program. So what we're doing now is we're continuing to drill at Happy Valley, where we've had this early success. We'll be really pushing there. We've got assays pending on certainly 2 visible gold intersects that looked very, very good and somewhat similar to some of the other VG we saw early on. And I think we've demonstrated that visible gold at Happy Valley translates very well into grade. So we're eagerly anticipating those results. We'll be advancing Beaufort as well. So we've got 2 properties we're busy advancing. We're ramping up, we're adding to the team. We've gone from 2 senior geologists. We added a 3rd a couple months ago. I'm looking to add a 4th very senior geologist to sort of head up our Australian program as a VP exploration and country manager. And then we're going to have this very, very solid senior geological team, a very good core to be able to take the company forward and to sort of advance, build upon our success and advance from 1 rig to 2 rigs, spinning all of the time and beyond. So that's the update for E79.
That's great. And it's interesting because Beaufort obviously kind of started off as the flagship asset, but you've had this early success at Myrtleford. So I'm looking forward to seeing those results, which I expect should be sometime this month, hopefully, depending on how the labs
Yes, it's
turn.
not under our control. We're doing everything we can in our control, but yeah, we sent it off on an expedited basis. So I'd love to see the results in October. Thanks,
And
Tina.
thank you. And if you hadn't had a chance to check out the webinar yet, it is on our YouTube channel. So feel free to take a look.
Next up, we have Brendan Cahill from Excellon Resources, who's going to tell us about some incredible drill results that he put out this morning.
Yeah, thanks, Deb. Good to see you. And tough one to follow. Tough one to follow. That's some serious drill results at E79. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. Sounds really good. But yeah, today we announced some good drill results of our own. 7.5 meters at 2,800 silver equivalent. More great high-grade drill results from the Platosa mine in Durango, Mexico. We do this all the time. You know, every 5 or 6 weeks we put out high-grade underground results. The difference with these ones, though, is that it is a bit of a different structure than we normally see there. Platosa is a pretty flat-lying deposit, kind of dips about 30% as we advance to the east. But this is very vertical mineralization, which we don't really see at Platosa. So it's something new. It's something interesting. You know, as soon as we saw it in section, before we got the assays back, we were very interested in following up on that. So that's what we're doing right now. You know, ultimately, what we're looking for at Platosa is where does this high-grade deposit coming from? And seeing that kind of vertical style mineralization is pretty interesting. I was at Platosa 2 weeks ago or so. If you've checked out my LinkedIn page, you can see some of the pictures from it. And mine just looks beautiful. The team's doing a great job there. You know, great workmanship and pride. So that was great to see down there.
In this new zone, what does that mean in terms of cost of mining?
Oh, way too early for that. You know, right now it's about where is this coming from? We've lined up a rig to follow up on it. The interesting thing, it is 80 meters above the deepest part of the mine where the water table is. It's very accessible from existing infrastructure. So I guess answering your question then, you know, development costs extremely low, access costs very low, haulage costs very low, and it's very, very high grade. So those all contribute to you know, a nice margin on mineralization.
Okay, great. Anything else going on at Platosa?
Not at Platosa, but at Silver City. I was actually down over in Saxony, Germany last week. So the market's not been great, but I've been checking out the projects in this bit of a dip. And you know, Silver City continuing to impress. We've got an incredible team there, an incredible facility, and it's a jurisdiction where we think we're really primed for success. The University of Freiburg is about 5 kilometers away from the project, or we're basically bordering the fields of the university. So we've got great students working for us. The amount of geological expertise in the area is really quite extraordinary. So we built up an excellent team there over the past year. Now it's just about drilling. We've got 2 rigs going right now. And importantly, we're drilling on this new trend we identified, this mafic schist trend, potentially more prospective and conducive for bigger deposits. Like everybody else, we're kind of waiting on assay results, but good core coming out of the ground. So we'll see what we get there. It's pretty exciting. And then last thing, just not to take up anybody else's time, but Idaho at Kilgore, working on getting that EA very shortly. Main thing we're doing right now is just reassessing a lot of historic drill core. Really kind of, this system is just, it's free gold everywhere, right? So we're doing a lot of met screen assaying to see if that will deliver higher grades than what was historically recognized in the fire assay. So those results are pending. Again, it's waiting for assays, but we hope to get a different picture on the project once we get those results back over the next little while.
And those are holes that Otis drilled previously?
Yeah, exactly. So they're holes that were drilled, over the past 10 or 20 years. We saw some met screens done by Echo Bay in the 90s and saw that there may be an opportunity with this met screen sampling. So we're doing that over a bigger selection, and if it proves our thesis, then we'll unroll it over a lot more historical holes, and it's hopefully a good way of finding more gold at relatively low cost without drilling.
Great. Well, look forward to that, and thanks for the update, Brendan. Anything else going on at Excellon?
Just more of the same, drill, and produce. It's and waiting for the market to turn a bit here. Obviously, everybody's suffering with the market right now, but we're holding in, and I think the commodity prices are holding in. I think that's a good sign for us as we head through the end of the year.
Okay, great. Well, congrats on the results today. Those were really impressive and look forward to seeing the news flow this fall.
Great. Thanks a lot, Deb.
Up next, we have Silas. Vic's going to do the intro.
Thanks, Brendan. And hey, Silas, how's it going?
Good, Vix. How you doing today?
I'm good. Tell us what's been going on at Healthspace.
Oh, well, a lot of upcoming deal flow. So our sales team has been extremely busy. One of the things that I touched on in a recent press release, but also I think in our last webinar, was this whole FDA initiative, whereby the FDA is granting $40 million over the next 3 years to various local government agencies in the furtherance of food safety, and that $40 million is being earmarked year over year. And what we've seen is there's a lot of demand. We put out a lot of marketing materials. This program just launched here last month, and all of the grants kick in starting in January. And we've seen a very long line of agencies trying to get in the door to apply for their grant money. And we've created kind of a vehicle, so to speak, to help expedite that, help them with the paperwork and those type of things. So we anticipate some of those deals really coming to fruition, if not this calendar year, based upon the grant timing. Definitely starting in January, we should start to see some deal flow out of that, which is really exciting. And that's over and above our traditional sales pipeline, because this was something that kind of came out of nowhere. This is an additional sales funnel that we're able to develop. Another sales development that we're really pushing towards, that we should have some traction in throughout the end of the year, is new verticals within government. So historically, everybody understands that we've largely just been selling into the environmental health sector, and we've talked about other agencies. We've made some penetration into agriculture, public health, those type of things, but we're starting to see some traction in some new unpenetrated spaces for us that we anticipate being able to announce here in Q4. That's really the really exciting element for us, because to be able to really exponentially launch our growth, environmental health for us, we have a $25 million sales pipeline, and that visibility is largely environmental health. So being able to build traction into other areas that could accelerate well beyond just what we see is really the exciting growth vertical, especially as we head into 2022 for us.
You mentioned for the FDA grants that you guys had created a bit of a vehicle to help the agencies along. Are your competitors out, aggressively trying to win this as well? Are you guys running up against people, or are you guys, kind of the only ones out there really pushing this?
That's a great question. What we're seeing is not a lot of noise or volume from the competitors that we face. So we seem to be one of the first, I would say at least, but definitely the first to really chart after this aggressively. And given that this is a 3-year program, I imagine maybe some competitor will come along and start to procure some of these funds on behalf of their customers as well. But we seem to be the only one in the markets really making a concerted effort on behalf of our potential customers to help them apply for this grant funding.
And then what does the process look like? So once they apply for the funding, are guys ready to kick off kind of January 1st, or is there a bit of a time lag to get things going?
No, that's the beauty of what this grant funding is supplying, is it's kind of an out-of-the-box solution. Because to be compliant with this FDA standard, it's kind of a 9-part system. They have to meet certain metrics, and those certain metrics being kind of governed digitally means that we can just open up the solution kind of as is, and they're ready to implement day one. So not only is it an expedited kind of sales process potentially, but it's also an expedited implementation process, which is very exciting for us, because it really will help on margins as we continue to accelerate and get these deals in volume. The implementation time won't be kind of suffocating.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, we look forward to news on that, and also to see what new verticals you guys are entering in Q4 of this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
definitely anticipate a lot of good news flow here as we are really just started Q4, but now through the end of the year, we definitely anticipate a lot of good news flow.
thanks so much for joining, Silas.
Thanks.
Thanks, Silas. So next up, we have Akiva Leisman, CEO of Mako Mining. He's going to give us an update. A couple big news releases, I think, since the last digital newsletter, which was the August production numbers, some pretty high grade drill results out of the pit area, or to the west of the pit area. And also you had an interesting news release yesterday. So maybe you can start with that one and walk us through the rationale of the debt extension to Wexford.
Sure. The The news release yesterday was associated with us planning to do a capital return program, which most likely will be in the form of a buyback. And this was a series of moves that we've made over the course of the last month or so. So we refinanced our third-party debt with a group called Nabari by taking a 24-month gold loan from an affiliated entity called Sailfish Royalty Corp. Now, the main impetus behind that was to give us infinite flexibility on what to do with the balance sheet. Now, additionally, we had $12.86 million of principal that is due to the controlling shareholder of Mako, Wexford Capital. At no cost, we extended that maturity date from August of next year, 2022, to the beginning of 2023. So a 6-month extension for no cost. And that was to add further flexibility that if our share price is going to be trading at the level that it's trading at now, which does not reflect what the underlying reality of this company is, we will be launching a fairly significant buyback of our shares at this price. So this was a, let's call it at least a couple month framework for us to give us the balance sheet flexibility to really not only invest in our growth endeavors of what we've always been planning on doing since 2019, but now that our shares are trading where they are, it's presenting us with a wonderful opportunity to buy them back at a discounted level.
As we saw with Sailfish, when they do share buybacks, they usually do quite a bit of the announced amount. Is this a market signal, or are you intending, if the share price stays at these levels, to really buy back shares in an aggressive way?
When we announce a buyback, our intent is to do it. That being said, we have $12.8 million of relatively high cost debt to Wexford. While they're a friendly shareholder and a debt provider, I would much rather repay that debt than to repurchase our shares. But all of this is going to be a decision process based on where we are. The shares were trading 30% higher from where we are. I'd rather take the cash and repay that debt. That being said, we're going to be given, assuming that we're going to be approved for the shareholder program, so I'm being a little bit presumptuous at this point, assuming that we're going to be approved for it, our intent is to do all of it, but the ideal situation is to make that back end loaded once the principal is fully repaid by the first half of next year.
And you still intend to continue on with your planned drill programs and exploration?
And enhance it, right? So right now, I think everybody from a global logistics perspective is kind of been hamstrung with getting things delivered. So we still have 3 rigs on site. We're waiting for our 2 rigs to get up to 5. Hopefully they'll be on site over the course of the next few weeks when it clears customs. But the objective is that once we get to those 5 rigs, is to really finance every conceivable target that we have. That's going to equate to about a 60,000 meter program, all of which is going to be funded through internal cash flow over here. So this is one of those situations where we can invest in a 60,000 meter program. We can repay all our principal. We can buy back what is likely going to be 5% of our issued and outstanding stock over the course of the next 12-month period, simply because the grades that are coming through the mine right now are generating, relative to our market cap and our objectives and our cost infrastructure, so much cash that we can do everything that we need to do from a business perspective, and then everything that we need to do from a balance sheet perspective as well.
Got it. And of those 60,000 meters, how many are going to be focused on San Albino and that surrounding area? How many on Las Conchitas, and how many are going to be pure exploration?
Right. So this is an important point, right? So of our 3 rigs, we have 1 at Las Conchitas right now, and then 2 are at expansion drilling within the permitted area of San Albino. So one of them is focused on the southwest of where we're mining right now, the southwest pit. When we put the resource out in 2020, we had all of 450 ounces of resource in the southwest pit. That's not missing a decimal point, right? So that was 450 ounces at all. Obviously, there's going to be more ounces than that when we drill it. We're actually starting to find the zone over there. So there's going to be a fairly material increase in the mineable area over there. And then one of them is finishing off drilling on a different vein called the Aras vein, which is part of our central pit, which we're going to start mining, I would say sometime at the end of next month. So towards the end of November, we'll start opening up a second pit within the permitted zone over at San Albino. Now, additionally, on top of this, going back to the pure exploration program that we have, we just finished our public consultation over at Puerto Rios, one of the concessions that we picked up from another publicly traded company back at the end of 2019. It was unanimous agreement with the public community on that. Hopefully we'll get permits to drill over at Puerto Rios. But the southern end of Puerto Rios is an extension of what we're mining right now. And to put that in context, the overall west pit, the area that we're mining right now, was only delineated on about 230 meters of strike. You include that southern zone of Puerto Rios on the same side of the river that we're mining right now, that has every indication that that's going to be expanding the strike of this deposit by a multiple, at least another 400 or 500 meters of strike. These are going to be material differences in terms of the resource that we've delineated and the ability to mine this, simply because we're starting to connect the dots and increase the puzzle pieces that we have in our concessions right now.
I actually have a bunch more questions, Akiba, but I don't want to take up too much time, but I think we're probably due for an actual investor update in a week or two. So why don't we schedule something for the week after next?
Perfect. I appreciate it, Deb.
Well, thanks for the update. Congrats.
So next up, we have Ken d'Entremont, who's the CEO of Medexus. Medexus is listed on the TSX with the ticker MDP and on the OTC as well with the ticker MEDXF. Hi, Ken. How's it going?
Hi, Tina. It's going great.
So the biggest news, I guess, in the last month is the commercialization of Trecondyv in Canada, which is the same formulation as treosulfan, but it's that's the Canadian brand name.
Correct. So as you probably know, we've been selling that through the Special Access Program for, I guess, about 18 months. And some of the biggest hospitals have been using it. Now we've got it fully registered and commercially launched. And we're seeing those same hospitals move into a commercial stage and adding other hospitals on. So we think we'll get much broader distribution through the regular distribution channel.
And just in terms of the hospitals that you mentioned, I know Princess Margaret was quoted in the press release, which is obviously a very well-known hospital and a good reputation. So I think that's a pretty good validation for the product.
Yeah, obviously, the number one institution within Canada and, a top institution around the world. And the people who lead that institution know conditioning extremely well. And the lead for that hospital came from Western Europe and it used treosulfan extensively there. So they're using it very broadly in MDS now and intend to use it in AML now that it's approved. And I think we also mentioned that Sick Kids has been using the product broadly in children. So yeah, we expect to have excellent uptake of the product in Canada, as we roll out commercially.
And where are you at in terms of the US side of things? Obviously, the CRL came out in August. How are things progressing on that side?
Yeah, we're very much on track and pleased with the progress so far. We do expect to be requesting the Type A meeting probably mid-month, October, which means it'll be held mid-November, towards the end of November. And that will be, some important feedback from the agency on our resubmission plan. So in order to request that and hold that meeting, you have to have that plan fully prepared. And we will get feedback from the agency on that. We're very positive in that regard that we do have data on 100% of the patients that they had requested information on. So we're very pleased that it'll be a complete data set, and we think does clearly answer the question that they proposed. So that will put us right back on track for a resubmission. Hopefully early calendar 22.
And in the meantime, the company did US 80 million revenue last year. You have a significant portfolio and you've seen some strength in some of your other core products as well, like Rupall, I know has done quite well over the last year.
Yeah, Rupall continues to do extremely well. It was 44% growth last quarter versus same quarter last year. And this fall has been another really bad allergy season. So for any allergy sufferers out there, you know what I'm talking about. So again, Rupall, this quarter that we're going to report, I guess mid-November, you'll see another really strong quarter for Rupall. Ixinity, we've been doing that channel reset. That's going extremely well. We're seeing the net selling price increase. So that is working out the way we had expected. So yeah, we've got a very strong base of business. And adding to it, products like treosulfan in Canada and hopefully treosulfan in the US in the not too distant future.
That's great. Well, thanks for the update. I know we're all looking forward to seeing how things progress with the FDA approval of treosulfan, but I think some of the news out with the Canadian approvals certainly speak to the efficacy of the product, and I think it'll be it's something that's definitely needed in the US. So looking forward to seeing how that goes.
You and many patients in the US are looking forward to having access to the drug. Yeah, so we feel quite positive about it.
Great. Well,
thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Next up, we have Cameron Broom, CEO of Microbix. I'm not sure if he's going on camera today.
Hi, I will be going on camera today. Hi, how are you, Deborah?
Good, nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
So lots of news items since the last time we had you on the digital news.
Oh, it just been crazy busy since we issued our Q3, as you know, in mid-August, with record sales, record gross margin, record EBITDA margin, record net earnings. It certainly hasn't slowed down for us. We've been busy as heck, and since then, we've been doing things, moving out a tremendous amount of quality assessment product shipments. Moved out the last of our first order of VTM from the province of Ontario in Q4. And continuing the pace of CAP's product development and engagement with the broad diagnostics industry and some big players within it. So a lot of exciting things going on, and a couple of announcements too that maybe I'll touch on, Deborah.
Sure, yeah, you repaid some debt, I believe.
Yes, well, we found one of our directors urged us to do a deep scrub on some of our indenture documents, and we found we had an early repayment option on some of our non-convertible debentures. So it didn't make sense to keep a 9% coupon outstanding when we have undrawn lines of credit costing 4.5%. So we moved ahead with a debt repayment of $1.3 million of principal on our debentures, which further brings down our debt to equity ratio and serves to demonstrate the growing financial strength of our company. And we've also announced some further work that we've completed on COVID variants, so test controls for PCR assays for the different variants of COVID, and we announced data demonstrating that our variant controls for the UK, South African, Brazilian strains work extremely well across at least 20 different companies' test platforms, and really further supplements what we demonstrated with the original Wuhan or wild type strain of COVID, that our controls are compatible across more than 50 different companies' instruments. So that's one of the reasons why we're seeing traction in the marketplace with these new products.
Well, that's great. And I believe that you're renovating and upgrading some facilities currently. Can you give us an update on where you stand with all that?
Absolutely. Well, the tender has gone out and been completed for the build out of the final portions of our second building, 235 watt line. We're outfitting further about 1,500 square feet. The last we could squeeze out of the warehouse space in that building, which will be likely housing automated CAPS swab production in that, our second building, along with the originally designed semi-automated production spaces and PCR labs in that facility. And then we're completing drawings for the full rebuild of our renovation of our third facility, or third site on Watline Avenue, adjacent to our first two, for a further 10,000 square feet of mixed use that will be split between warehousing and logistics geared towards the bulkier commodity of VTM, and production spaces for VTM, and some R&D, product development labs, I should say, and some mixed office space there as well. So that'll take us up to about a little over 35,000 square feet altogether. And I don't think we're going to stop there. So it's exciting times, and we really see 2022 having the same sort of sales growth as we saw in 2021, and sets us up for a fantastic year where we're going to see expanding net earnings, and as to pair with that continued sales growth. So we start to look really cheap, and you see that reflected in analyst targets from Chelsea Stellick at IA or Bruce Krugel at KRC, who are both looking at a $1.70 price target on Microbix.
Seems like there's still a ton of upside. So with the expansion and the automation, maybe you can quantify that in terms of what your capacity will be. Is it a factor of 2, 5, 10 from what you're
We're looking at a factor of 5 to 10x following these builds in terms of capacity. And what we need to make certain of is all of our systems, from procurement to manufacturing to QC QA release, are all equipped to handle that scaling. And that's a lot of the work we're doing now, is involving making certain we successfully execute on that scaling, including digitizing our quality management document trail, full upgrades to our ERP systems, and all of the required scaling items.
Great. Well, it's good to see that you've built that capacity for growth, and looking forward to, we're probably due for a full update ourselves, so maybe book that in the next couple of weeks. And I believe you're in Montreal today, so.
I am. Thank you very much. Just have some meetings here. It's interesting to be back at the occasional in-person meeting, albeit cautiously.
Yeah, it is nice. We actually saw each other a couple of weeks ago at the Muskoka conference, which was good.
Very much, and very productive to be able to update investors in this forum and others. So thank you.
Great. Well, have a great day, Cameron. Thanks for the update.
Thanks so much, Deborah. Thank you, Tina and Victoria, and take care. Bye.
Up next, we have Gary O'Connor, who's CEO of Moneta Gold. Hi, Gary. How are you?
Hi, Deborah. How are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for having us back.
You're welcome. I see that you put out some high-grade results for me this morning.
Yes, you did. Yeah, we had some very good results. So from the latest drilling at Westaway, which was our new discovery, underground discovery from last year. There's some good intercepts there, 15, 20 meter true widths, 3-4 grams per ton over multiple intercepts. It's a big step out. Hole 213 was a 100-meter step out from hole 208. So it's pulled the resource significantly to the west and at depth. So yeah, we're very excited, and we have more drill results to come. We actually have another undercut hole 222, which actually drills further west than 213. So we're looking forward to getting those results out in the near future.
So can you remind me how big your current drill program is and what your objectives for it are?
Okay, so we're in the very last stages of a 70,000 meter drill program. It's all focused on resource expansion. So we're looking to increase our resources, expand them, add to our current resource base, which is, it's 8.4 million ounces, both underground and open pit. We're on the last round of drill holes now, so we'll be finishing that over the next 2 weeks. As the rigs finish these holes, we'll be then putting the cutoff on, logging, then assaying, then modeling, and then completing a resource update. We're looking to have that completed now very early next year, which will then form the base of an updated and significantly larger, preliminary economic assessment. So we'll be able to give the market some good guidance in regards to the overall size and scope of the project, as well as the economics. So, it's going to be a very exciting few months for us here.
Definitely. Well, one would think that you're really well positioned in the current M&A market. We saw some recent transactions, and I believe it was Barrick that was saying that they want their next acquisition to be in Canada. Can you speak a little bit about the M&A environment and how you think you're situated within that? Having such
we're kind of on. Yeah, sorry, I spoke over you there. Yeah, we're on ground zero, really. We, as you know, just last year we had the big acquisition of Gold Corp by Newmont. Just recently, we've just seen the merger of Kirkland Lake Gold and Agnico Eagle to create the new Agnico. Kirkland Lake, has the large detour project just to the north of us. They have the Macassa underground high-grade mine just to the south of us in Kirkland Lake. Agnico Eagle is currently, in scoping study phase for, the Beaver deposits just east of Kirkland Lake. So we're right in the middle of, major, acquisitions, mergers. So we're one of the largest landholders in the belt. We've got, what is probably now the largest undeveloped resource in the belt, and we're moving it forward, expanding it and adding value. So yeah, we think we're in a good position to be part of, consolidation and addition of value moving forward. So yeah, for us, it's very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And I like that you're also advancing the project too, not just sitting around waiting. No,
our shareholders want us to move this forward. They want us to de-risk it. They want us to enlarge it, and they want us to, to show the market the value proposition. So we're very busy doing that, but it's a lot of fun, and we think we're going to, be a good value proposition here for our shareholders and the investment community at large.
Great. Well, I appreciate the update. Congrats on the results. Looking really good. And yeah, I'll be watching for the next round of them.
Excellent. No, thank you. We still have a lot of drill results to come, and a lot more from Westaway, plus the other, the rest of the 70,000 meter program. There'll be a good flow of news over the next few months. And yeah, we're very excited and happy about the drill results this morning. So yeah, we're looking to continue to grow these deposits and add value. So thank you.
Great. Well, thanks for the update, Gary. And I think next up we have Caesar, who I forgot to promote. Hi, Caesar. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I didn't multitask very well there. So Caesar Gonzalez, CEO of Sailfish. How are you doing today, Caesar?
I'm doing all right. We actually received our first payment on the gold-linked loan between Sailfish and Mako. So the average price for the month of September was $1,777 an ounce, which equates to a $364,000, roughly dollar payment from Mako to Sailfish. So that's going well. And for a lot of people that have been following the stock are waiting, I think, eagerly for October 15th, which is the date that they will receive their first dividend check as shareholders of Sailfish. That's for shareholders that were on the record on September 30th. So it's something we press released on the 8th, gave people plenty of time to buy the stock leading up to that. At today's share price, we're yielding about 5%, which is the highest of any precious metals royalty company. And it's in alignment with our policy to pay out cash to shareholders, whether in the form of buybacks, which is what we had been doing up until this point, and continue to do so selectively. And then the dividend, which is, as I said, the highest in the precious metals royalty space.
In other royalty spaces, they actually value companies based on the dividend. Is that the case in precious metals, or is it slightly different? Is it EV to EBITDA? Is it like how?
Price to cash flow.
Price to cash flow.
Yeah, or for the emerging royalty cos, price to NAV, which requires research coverage, which we don't have. There are other royalty companies that have very little revenue, but have pretty good valuations because they have analysts that are able to model what the cash flows of the royalties are in the future and discount them. We tried to do a look through. We talked about it when Cisco acquired the 2.5% on Spring Valley. They gave them a 3%. They had owned a 0.5% before. That's the same royalty we have. And BMO was the first analyst to launch a valuation on that, and it was 99 million Canadian, roughly 75 million US at the time, which, depending on the day, is equivalent to our whole market cap. So I would like there to be a price to NAV calculation on Sailfish, but there has to be a NAV, and without research coverage, that's difficult.
Okay, and then other than the coming dividend, what other catalysts are you working on right now at Sailfish?
So one that we've been working on for a while, and we're getting close to the finish line, is the spin out of Gavilanes. So in the summer, when we announced plans to do this, silver was trading at a higher price. It was approaching $30 an ounce, and everyone was getting, foaming at the mouth. And now it's at 22.5. Less excitement, but there's still a lot of value to be created here because we have Gavilanes inside of a royalty company, and that's not the ideal place for it to be. It needs to be in an exploration and development company which is what swordfish silver will be. It's Gavilanes plus Commonwealth, which is a gold silver deposit in Arizona. And we're plugging away. We have final comments being made on the 43101 for Commonwealth. The one for Gavilanes is already public. It's posted on Sailfish's CDAR. And this is a long time coming, but we're getting closer to the end, and I can't wait to start marketing it, and hopefully it's a success and we're able to get it out there, because I would really like for Sailfish shareholders to finally see that value that's associated with Gavilanes. And today inside of our company, it's not getting any value.
Well, it seems like the shareholders have seen a lot of value with the monetization that you've done of some of your royalties over the past year, and now with the dividend. Share price should start to reflect some of that, as well as the spin out. And just one more thing on Gavilanes, because I don't think you actually explained what the asset is. Could you just walk whoever isn't familiar with it? What is Gavilanes?
Sure. So it's in a prolific district. It's the San Dimas district, named after the San Dimas mine, which is about 25-30 Ks to the, I believe it's northwest. And it's operated by First Majestic. It's one of the most, it's one of the mines in Mexico that's produced the longest, both gold and silver. It's actually the birthplace of Silver Wheaton, which is now Wheaton Precious Metals. They had a stream on there that they used to create the business that they have today. And we're right next door. It's a 250 gram per ton silver equivalent deposit, and 85% of that is silver. It's only has 47 holes into it. All of those holes are being re-assayed because they were not fully assayed. They were just assayed where they would see visually identify mineralization. So we're doing a lot of follow-up work that should have been done a while ago in anticipation of putting this into a vehicle that will then do even more work, including some drilling. But it's one of the highest grade undeveloped deposits right now for silver in Mexico, which is one of the largest producers of silver on the planet, as a country.
Well, I appreciate that description. Anything else from Sailfish that you wanted to talk about today, Caesar?
No, we covered it. The dividend, the spin out, starting to be repaid on the gold linked loan, which is at 1777 gold, is a very nice yield to Sailfish. And the cash flow keeps coming from San Albino. You had to keep on earlier, and we're getting ready to enter into this Porcelana zone, the meat of it. So we should expect a lot of production, a big bump in production from that.
Great. Well, looking forward to some of those news releases coming. And I think that we'll be booking a webinar in the next little while to go over things in more detail.
Yeah, I want to do it after the 15th so that people have their check, in their account, and
we'll be happy.
Maybe we get some friendly shareholders to show up to the call.
Great. Well, thanks, Caesar, for the update. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Deb.
Next up, we have Greg Liller from Sierra Madre, who also has a project in Mexico, or a couple projects now. Hi, Greg. How are you?
Well, and yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. Maybe you can give us a bit of an update on what you guys are doing. I think you're trenching right now.
Yes. To peak, we've just now starting to get assays back from submissions in late July. So the turnaround's quite a long time now. But no, program's moving along quite nicely. At the Astasias area, which is in our northern project area, very little work had been done there in the past. And we've now done trenching through the covered basalt area. And the basalt only turned out to be about 1 meter thick before we got into the quartz vein breccia zone. So that's very exciting for me. We'll expand a lot of trenching work in that area and see just how thick that cover really is. At La Tigra, we've also initiated a trenching program there. All of this is in preparation for drilling. We've submitted permit applications that we should be receiving response back any time now for over 200 holes at each project. So as soon as we have that in hand and some trench results back, we'll start our drilling program And the idea is to complete 15, 20 holes at one project, move the rigs to the other project, complete 15 or 20 there while we're waiting on assays for the other project, and just keep bouncing back and forth. I've got a history of once I get my hands on drill rigs, I just don't stop drilling. So I'm really looking forward to getting that started. We are looking at the possibility of building our own certified laboratory also. I've done this in the past. I did it at Ocampo 15 years or so back. I got to check what the regs are now, but we've also had some other companies express interest in going in on it. And maybe we can get away from this 2-month or more turnaround in assays that it's hurting everybody.
Yeah, I can imagine the delays impact your planning and your ability to continue your drill programs. In terms of the permits that you're in the process of getting for increased drilling, can you quantify that? Like, I think you were originally going to drill something like 60 or 70 holes. How many holes are you trying to get permitted for currently?
We had 67 permitted at Tepic, of which we still have almost 50 left, 47, I think, left there. And it's another 230 some odd that we're permitting. The permits at Tepic will encompass both drilling from existing roads and sites that will utilize man-portable core rigs for. The same goes at La Tigra. And I think our initial permit there was also for 230 some odd holes.
Okay, and I know it's impossible to predict these things, but when do you think that you will be able to start drilling again?
I'm hoping in the next, towards the end of the month, November. They're still getting a lot of rain in Nayarit. This has been one of their rainiest years on record. So we are still having logistics problems associated with that. And I hate to waste money waiting for a arroyo to quit flowing so we can get across it and get to the drill rig.
So is the rainy season typically a couple months long? When does it run from?
It generally goes from July through October. This year it started in June. In fact, I had a trip delayed down there because the airport at Mazatlan flooded.
Wow.
Which it hasn't done in a long time, and it knocked out the electrics at the terminal. So.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to fly into that. Okay, great. Well, I appreciate the update. Looking forward to seeing some of the trenching results and when you get drilling again. So appreciate the update. Anything else you wanted to tell us today, Greg?
No, we're just pretty much moving along according to plan. So.
Great. Well, look forward to seeing some results.
Thank you for having me, Deborah.
I know. And I think
Bye-bye.
Tina's introducing our next guest.
Yeah, so next up we have Sharif Lewis, who's the CEO of TeloGenomics, which is listed on the Venture Exchange with the ticker TELO. Thanks for being here. First digital newsletter. Glad to have you on with us.
Thank you, Tina. Good to see you. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, so why don't you give us a quick overview of the business?
Sure. TeloGenomics is focused on commercializing unique and disruptive prognostic and risk assessment tools that actually has broad applications, but the company is now focused on multiple myeloma. Multiple myeloma is a deadly blood cancer, as many of us know. The company is now focused on developing a prognostic tool for early stage, high risk patients who are currently would be monitored, wouldn't be treated because there is no tool in the clinic to identify those high risk patients. We have the advantage and the tools to bring this value offering to the management of that disease, identifying these patients. The technology produces very sensitive results utilizing liquid biopsies and single cell analysis. These advantages allow us to run our clinical studies to develop tests using a very low number, relatively lower number of patients in the clinical studies, which means a faster turnaround and a lower cost and a quick end results for the benefit of patients.
So the multiple myeloma studies that you're doing now are in partnership with the Mayo Clinic. So can you talk about how that originated? And they're retrospective studies as well, right? So kind of talk about how that process works.
Exactly. So we're currently running two active clinical studies with the Mayo Clinic. They are led by Dr. Shaji Kumar out of the Mayo Clinic. He's one of the most innovative and leaders in the area of multiple myeloma in general, but particularly in the management of smoldering multiple myeloma, which is the early stage, high risk stage of that disease. The study's been running for a little over a year now, and we completed a feasibility phase with Dr. Shaji Kumar with the Mayo Clinic. Of course, given the delays of COVID and whatnot, but we were actually very, very clever in finalizing all the required paperwork, ethics approval, material transfer agreement, data transfer agreement, and we got the study actually rolling several months ago. We received, as I mentioned, the first feasibility batch of samples end of Q1 this year, and we completed them. We shared results with the Mayo Clinic. And as we speak, we are expecting another batch of samples. That batch would be big enough to allow us to achieve a critical milestone in the studies with publishable data that we can share in conferences and in press releases, etc. So we're so excited that we are getting at that stage in this study.
And once you get all this data back and show that the technology has been validated, what are the next steps for the company?
This would be the most critical piece, actually. We are running these studies based on early stage proof of principle studies. So we know that we will achieve good results, but expanding the cohorts that we worked with and working with a key center like the Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic is one of the most important centers in myeloma and the most important center in smoldering myeloma. So having this data would be a huge validation for that test, number one, and for the technology in general, number two. Once we are at that stage, we are very close to complete the requirement of a laboratory developed test for identifying these smoldering multiple myeloma patients. And working with the Mayo Clinic, they're the ones not contribute to the guidelines, they actually put the guidelines. We have confidence that with the completion of the requirement of a laboratory developed test, there would be a very quick adoption for that test.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the timing is really great to be looking at this story. We will be doing a full webinar on the 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern. So we'll go through the presentation, and if anyone has any questions, we can ask them on the webinar as well. But thank you for the quick overview, and looking forward to chatting with you in more length next week.
Thank you, Tina. So happy to be here and can't wait for the October 13th.
Great. Good chatting with you. Those are all the presentations we have. I know that iFabric management couldn't make it today, but I do have a little bit of an update for anyone who's interested. They did present at the Capital Event Conference last week. We had some great feedback from investors. They'll be launching with Springs Window Fashions in the next month or so. They're launching their private label with Amazon in about a month as well. Their own private label should be launching in Q1. And as you know, September 30th is their year end, so we can expect results out towards the end of December. Warehouses are fuller than ever, so I would expect a lot of positive things to come in the future.
Thanks, Tina. Nice overview. So yeah, I guess that's it for our digital newsletter. Thanks everyone for participating. And yeah, thanks ladies.
Thanks everyone.